Welcome to Building Toronto. I'm Peter Sobchak. There are a few topics about life in this city that'll get people more riled up than transit. Everyone has an opinion about the state of Toronto's transit, and chief among the firebrand issues are expansion plans. In this episode, we'll take a look at the TTC's extension of the Yonge-University-Spadina subway line from Downsview station into Vaughan, as well as the Eglinton-Scarborough Crosstown LRT that'll run along Eglinton Avenue through the heart of Midtown Toronto.
The project is an 8.6 kilometer extension, northwestern extension of the existing Spadina subway line. It's going to have 6 new stations, 3 fully in Toronto, 2 fully in the city of Vaughan and York region, and 1 that straddles the boundary between the 2 municipalities. This particular line, our estimates are that it will take about 83 million vehicle kilometers of travel off the roads when the line is in place. That's per year. That's a very significant change, and that really is going to have an impact on the surrounding road system. The project has been designed to connect a number of key communities in both Toronto and the city of Vaughan. It's going to connect the Downsview Park, a very large Canadian urban park, and the development that will be associated with the park at the Sheppard West Station. The existing community at the Keele and Finch area will certainly be well served by a station in that location. York University is going to get 2 stations, one in the heart of the campus and one on the north end of the campus, where there is a planned community around that particular station at Steeles West. At Highway 407, it's a major interregional transit hub that will bring people from across the GTA to connect into the subway line. So that's a very important interregional mobility hub. And at the VMC station, there's the new Vaughan Metropolitan Centre, and that's a very large planned urban community and basically a city centre for the city of Vaughan. If you look at the Vaughan Metropolitan Centre station structure, that structure is over 500 meters long. The total length of that structure is taller than the CN Tower. So the one at Finch is even taller than that. The Go-Barrie commuter rail line will connect to the Spadina subway extension at the Sheppard West Station. There is a planned transitway on Highway 407 that is in the planning stages with the Ministry of Transportation, and that would connect directly to the Highway 407 station.
When we started this process, we were asked to build world-class buildings. Basically what that has meant is that the buildings are more iconic, they're more of a focal point of the communities. They're a landmark in these existing communities. In some cases, there are established communities, and we're integrating these subway stations into those communities. In other cases, they're pretty much greenfield, suburban neighborhoods, and the community aspect will follow. We've been asked to integrate the Toronto Green Standards to green our buildings, to make them more environmentally friendly. We're also integrating art with the architecture, so there's integrated art into the finishes of the stations. Inside the stations are much brighter, higher ceilings. Often we have 2-3-story spaces. Some stations have skylights, so you can actually get natural light down to the platform level. In all cases, these stations will be gateways to these existing communities and future communities. The buildings are very modern, they're very organic in feel. A lot of them have curved roofs, vaulted roofs, and they do this using materials you'll see in our existing stations, a lot of glass walls, a lot of steel, a lot of concrete, but using them in a way which brings in light deep into the stations and gives them a very kind of warm feeling, very modern kind of feeling.
I'm involved in one of the new stations and the new extension of the subway line. In particular, I'm the artist on the design team for the station in Vaughan. It's the terminus station, the final station on the line. Part of the beauty of the station design is it has a kind of dome structure over a very kind of deep station that goes multi-levels down into the ground. And the treatment of the dome structure, including perforating it with skylights strategically located to get light down into the depths of the station, plus the surface treatment of the inside of that dome with an array of different types of mirrored reflective panels, so that the thing's a bit like an inside-out mirror ball or disco ball, taking all the activities of the station, people coming out, people going in, walking across platforms with their grocery bags and so on, is all collaged as a almost cubic-like kinetic reflection in the dome above.
They certainly have to respond to the unique aspects of the various communities. Some stations have bus terminals, for example. Some have other trains. The GO station comes in and interfaces with our stations. So the functional design is always different, and they have to address those issues. But once they address the functional issues and they integrate the TTC standard elements and so on, then they pretty much can do what they want to do in terms of the expression of the architecture of the station, providing they're responding to the community needs.
Throughout modern history, and in particular occasionally in the history of the City of Toronto, there have been complaints and debates about whether we should really be spending public money on art and having art in public places. And I think if you go to places like Chicago and Barcelona that lead the world with public art, you can see that it makes citizens proud. It makes people love their city more.
We're currently at the site of the Shepherd West construction. What we can see is the station construction and the tunnel construction area. The tunnels themselves, there's 2 tunnels going towards Downsview station over here, and then we've already built 2 tunnels going towards Keele and Finch, which will be the site of the next station construction.
We are at future Vaughan Metropolitan Center station, part of the future TTC subway expansion program, part of TYSSC project, and my role is I'm construction site manager. The underground station is approximately 523 meters long, and it's about 80 meters deep, and it will be 3 sections. One is crossover, then is the station and light tail truck. This is where we're standing right now, it's light tail truck station. Tiebacks is part of the SOE, part of support of excavation system. Before we reach this level here, we're supposed to keep the ground stable. In order to do that, we're going with the soldier pies, drilling, installing luggings, and then we'll install the tiebacks. Tiebacks, you can see them on the side. They are approximately about like 22 meters long, installed by angle about like 20-22 degrees. Tested, and each of them, we have about 900 of them approximately on this project, and they are locked about like 120 tons to keep the pressure. This station will run under Highway 7, and our requirements is that traffic on Highway 7 is always open. We will have like 3 lanes east and west side traveling all the time. In order to build this, we have to detour, we have to move that Highway 7 south and north several times in order to build this, to build all the support of excavation system. We're currently at the site of the Shepherd West construction.
What we can see is the station construction and the tunnel construction area. The tunnels themselves, there's 2 tunnels going towards Downsview station over here, and then we've already built 2 tunnels going towards Keele and Finch, which will be the site of the next station construction. The 2 tunnels are called Holy Moly. They're EPB machines, which means they're earth pressure balance machines. And the theory behind the earth pressure balance machine is that when they dig through the ground, what they remove from the ground is how far forward they push. So they have to balance what they take out with how far forward they go. And that creates the least amount of settlement coming up to the surface. And as they move forward, behind them, they build concrete segments which supports the tunnel itself. So on the Spadina project, we have split the tunnelling sections up into the northern section and the southern section. We're currently at the southern section. The southern section has 2 machines, 2 tunnel boring machines, and they're called Holy and Moly. And the northern tunnelling section also has 2 machines, and they're called Yorkie and Torquay. The tunnelling process, if you broke it up in simple terms, it's 3 processes: muck, build and grout. The mucking process involves the machine, in our case, moving forward 1.5 metres. What happens is the muck goes through a chamber, gets cut through the ground through the teeth at the front of the TBM, goes through a screw and gets deposited onto a conveyor belt, and on the conveyor belt goes through the tunnel boring machine, all this underground, and it goes into muck bins, muck wagons, which are on as part of a train. And the train provides the concrete segments to come in the tunnel and the empty muck bins, and leaves the tunnel full of muck and no segments, no concrete tunnel rings. So that's the muck process. Then you have the build process, which involves delivering the rings, delivering the segments, the concrete segments, to the front of the machine. So once it's finished pushing the 1.5 metres, then it needs to construct a ring to push off for the next 1.5 metres, and that ring forms the support required to keep the ground out, of course, and that also is the final subway tunnel. And then that's basically the process. Just to give you some facts about the tunnelling operation, in front of us here we have one of the rippers. Now there's 32 of these on the front of the machine. Now how these act is, at the front of the tunnelling machine, the machine turns at about 2 revolutions per minute, and 32 of these plus a nose cone, something similar, will cut through the ground, break the ground up and scoop it into a chamber, which then exits the tunnel. So this is one of the rippers. The length of the tunnel is 6.2 kilometres. On top of that, we also have 2.4 kilometres of cut and cover. Now, cut and cover would include stations. Basically, that means that you do your excavation from the surface, not bored as tunnelling. So the total length of the whole subway, the Spadina subway, is 8.6 kilometres. For the tunnelling crews, we have about 70 people, because when we're tunnelling, we tunnel for 24 hours a day. So that would be 3 shifts. So 70 people includes all the miners, the guys on the top to bring the segments across, operate the cranes, just generally carry out all the tunnelling operations. Plus inside the tunnel, we're also we're constructing cross passages as well, so there's smaller hand mining type works. So there's about 70 people, but away from those 70 there's engineers, there's the TTC representatives on site. So we can easily get over 100 people just to feed on the southern section of tunnels, the tunnel inside of the works.
This is quite a unique project in that it's funded by 4 different funding partners. We have the federal government that is funding the program through the Building Canada Fund and a program called FLOW. The provincial government is funding the program as well through a trust fund called the Move Ontario Trust. The City of Toronto and York Region are sharing the remaining funding between them. It's a 60%, 40% split between Toronto and York Region.
In terms of the bigger picture, we're actually building new kind of urban environments, strengthening existing urban environments, but we're city building basically. When you build the transit, for example, in Vaughan Metropolitan Centre, there's not much there now, but eventually the higher densities will come, the integration with other modes of transit are planned, and you will get a metropolitan centre which will be connected directly to downtown Toronto.
This is a very unusual line. It has a very unusual alignment. It's created some very unique challenges for the TTC, but I think the end product, what we're going to get from this line, will not only serve people in the future and for many generations to come, hopefully, but will also provide a legacy in terms of the station designs, the architecture of the stations, and the functionality of the stations. So we're very proud of what it is that we're building here.
For the next 2 years, there'll be quite a bit of tunnel construction going on. You're not really going to see much in the way of tunnel construction until we pull the machines out and reinstall them at Eglinton West, and then they'll continue on to Yonge, and then we'll pull them out at Yonge. So there'll be some impacts associated with the tunnel construction and those extraction shafts and launch shafts. The Eglinton Crosstown project is a $4.9 billion provincial investment in transit in the City of Toronto. The project itself will create something like 60,000 direct and indirect jobs, and our goal is to complete this project by 2020 so that people in the City of Toronto can go east-west and connect with the subway at 3 locations and connect with GO Transit at 3 locations, and increasing their mobility and their way of getting around the City of Toronto. The plan for the Eglinton Crosstown is it's a 19-kilometer extension running east-west from roughly Weston Road area all the way east to Kennedy. 12 underground stations, and the remaining stations are at the surface, so a total of about 20 stations from end to end. Why the Eglinton corridor? Well, the Eglinton corridor right now, carrying 66,000 passengers a day, is a heavily congested corridor. We've done projections in the environmental documents that are looking at what's the ridership going to be in 2031. And the projections are it's going to be about 5,600 passengers in the peak hours. That compares to the Yonge-Spadina subway, which is carrying 30,000 riders in the peak hour. So we're projecting that this corridor will continue to see a lot of growth, especially as we have city building in the Eglinton area, especially the old part of Eglinton Ave. Ridership will continue to grow. So this technology and this project is really important for moving people in the future. The Eglinton Crosstown has a number of connections to the existing Toronto subway. We connect at the Eglinton West station, which currently is the Spadina line. We connect at Yonge subway, and we connect at Kennedy subway. We also connect to GO, so it really is a regional connector. We'll be connecting at GO on the west side, on the Kitchener-Georgetown line in the Mount Dennis area. We'll connect at a future station of GO at Caledonia, and we will connect at the existing GO station at Kennedy.
Light rail is different from what we've seen in Toronto. We know streetcars, we know subways in Toronto, and we know buses, but we haven't seen light rail yet. So it's really introducing a new mode to Toronto that is a mid-capacity vehicle. In Toronto, along Eglinton Avenue, which is right in the middle of the city, we're looking at creating a real avenue feel to it with a mid-range capacity vehicle, which is perfectly suited to light rail. So light rail will operate underground in the central section where Eglinton is more narrow, and where Eglinton widens out east of the Don Valley, it will be at surface. And this is able to really pull together transit riders across Toronto and bring intersecting routes, connecting them to rapid transit. But it's really something that people haven't seen yet. And so there's a lot of enthusiasm and interest in what the underground stations will look like, as well as what light rail is.
This is a low-floor light rail vehicle that we're on. It's a mock-up of the vehicle being manufactured by Bombardier and designed by them. They will be manufactured in Thunder Bay, Ontario, and we have 182 of these vehicles on order with Bombardier. They represent the state-of-the-art in light rail vehicle technology. As I mentioned, it's a low-floor vehicle, which means everybody can board the vehicle just like a subway vehicle. You don't have to step up anywhere to get on the vehicle. It seats 60 people, and standing on this vehicle with seating and standing capacity, we're looking at about 200 per vehicle. And on the Eglinton corridor, we are going to be able to link 3 of these vehicles together and carry a significant load. So it's kind of designed for the future that we have capacity on these vehicles.
We get a lot of interest from people who are living along Eglinton or who travel or shop along Eglinton. And as with any infrastructure project of this size, there will be impacts that people will see. There will be lane reductions, there will be road work, utility relocation.
There will be construction impacts, and those will really occur in 2 phases. The first phase is the tunnel. We're just starting the tunneling work, and we'll build the tunnel first and the stations later. So for the next 2 years, there'll be quite a bit of tunnel construction going on. You're not really going to see much in the way of tunnel construction until we pull the machines out and reinstall them at Eglinton West, and then they'll continue on to Yonge, and then we'll pull them out at Yonge. So there'll be some impacts associated with the tunnel construction and those extraction shafts and launch shafts. 2 years later, the impacts will be around the construction of the underground stations.
The Crosstown project is really one of the biggest transit projects in North America, and it's going to leave a lasting change in our city. And community people are very excited because it really will change the face of transit in Toronto. It's introducing a whole new mode that people in Toronto haven't seen yet, which is light rail transit.
So our goal is to get the Eglinton Crosstown built by 2020 so that passengers can press this button and...
Next station is Kennedy Station.
We are always on the move in our city. And while these expansion plans won't solve all of our mobility issues, They are certainly much needed additions to our transit infrastructure that will help reduce travel time and congestion for those who live, work, and commute in our city. I'm Peter Sobchak. Join me next time on Building Toronto.